You are listening to Good Morning Sunshine, where we authentically share the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beauty all around it, reminding you that perspective reveals miracles. Good morning, sunshines. Oh, all right. We have something to talk about. There's a decision that you have to make, and you maybe don't even know it. So that's what we're diving into today on Good Morning Sunshine. This may or may not be a personal reflection, as is a majority of my talks. So when you think, did she make this message specifically for me? It was probably for me. I'm gonna rewatch this afterwards. So I can shit or get off the pot. That's gonna be the moral of the whole thing. Anyways, excited to have this conversation. Here's what happened. Always starts with the here's what happened, right? So I wake up this morning at 3 a.m. Anybody else have a case of the wakesy upsies, 3 a.m. wakesy upsies? That was all fine and dandy when I was getting up to make my son an ice cream cone and go downstairs or clean up vomit or do all the things that a chemo mom does. But when my kids are actually both soundly sleeping, soundly, and mama bears up, I mean, that's just idiotic, right? What am I doing awake right now? It is time to be sleeping. So, what happens for me every time this happens to me is I continue to lay in bed. Number one, because otherwise my kids would freak out because we all sleep in one big family bed. Don't make fun of me. It's just what we do. But I continue to lay in bed and I start to do a meditation practice. It's my go to for making use of the time if I can't go back to sleep and perhaps being able to go back to sleep. And I always start with this light work. I didn't know what I was doing when I started a long time ago, but where I will just first get really still. Usually I lay on my back, my palms are up, kind of like in a shavasana. It's also how I slept when I had that concussion for a year, only I would tuck my hands underneath me. I don't know why. It was really weird. No pillow. Anyways, I'll get into this like state and just allow for myself to feel my body and start breathing. And then see this like light moving through my body. And this morning I saw a Zamboni because sometimes that's what you do. And the Zamboni was like sucking up any dark or negative energy, just anything that really wasn't suiting me, right? And leaving this sparkly, iridescent, bright white that's just like in your eyes. And so I went through my full body and I'm doing this. I don't know how long it takes me 2 minutes, 47 minutes. I don't know. It's dark out. I don't have my clock. There's nothing around. And then I was like, you know what? That felt so good. I'm going to do it like my full energy bubble. So like then I see my whole energy bubble and I go through the whole same thing. And as a result, at some point, I ended up in this conversation with myself about making a decision, about it's time to make a decision. And we're all at different stages and phases of life. So, something for me that I've experienced is I have always been a very passionate entrepreneur. I love creating, I love launching. I have worked my way from real estate and mortgages all the way through health coaching, fitness coaching, training, mindset coaching, developing mindset programs, speaking, writing, all these different things. And then my son, we found out that he had cancer and he had this rare disease. And all of a sudden, I was a straight up chemo mom, caregiver, couldn't do anything but for almost 2 years. Like every time I would try to, like, oh, I'm going to get back into some level of my companies or my work, it was smacked right back in my face. Like, Cal, your chapter right now is caregiver. Do not even try to turn the page. You're in the caregiver chapter. But my son rang the bell in October. And the first 2.5, 3 months were spent in this pretty challenging chemo hangover phase of trying to support him to detox and acclimate and socialize. And even though I know that can be a couple year long thing, we're in this pretty good phase right now. My son wears clothes. He'll leave the house. We've stayed at hotels. We went on a vacation. What? A vacation? Without a like barfing, extremely ill baby. It was glamorous to say the least. Embassy Suites, hello, yes. But things are good. And I feel like I've kind of been in this party mode. Like life is good. Like let's just be, let's just hang out, let's just do. And there is nothing wrong with that. There are seasons where that is the decision. Like that definite, like this decision was basically made for me to become a caregiver, chemo mom, awesome. And then the decision to really just enjoy and be. But I had this conversation with myself last night, the 3 a.m. wake season. I was like, all right, girl, let's chat. and you might have these with yourself sometimes. Let's have a chat. Am I living to my fullest potential right now? Am I living on purpose? As Jay Shetty's podcast, right? Am I living on purpose? Is that right? And it kind of, I think it was sparked because I was at the dance class that I love. If you guys don't know, I'm like in love with dance classes right now. And I was talking to a couple of the girls. All of them are absolutely amazing there. We build these relationships, these friendships, and I'm learning about their jobs and what they do. And I'm asking questions. And they said, "What do you do?" And I was like, uh, 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 mm, like, I mean, like, I was like, "I'm a mom," with a question mark at the end. "I'm a mom? I've been a mom for 19 years. PS. Yes, Cal, you're a mom. You have 4 children. You are a mom." But that's not that might be one of the descriptors of me, but that's not who I am. Caregiver who was who I was for a couple years almost, right? But mom, I love my children, but that's not the definition of me. Our children do not define us. And I was just like, well, I used to run these businesses and I'm like tripping over my words. And I came home, I'm like, Kelly, what are you? Who are you? You have a decision to make right now. And this isn't just for those of us transitioning from chemo mom or caregiver into normal life. There are consistently these times in our lives where we don't even realize that there's a choice, but we might be sitting in some stuckness that we don't even know is there. Maybe we're stuck in our career, we're stuck in a relationship, we're stuck in a friendship, we're stuck in a certain state of mind and we don't even realize it because it was a chapter we were supposed to do. It was a chapter we were supposed to live. It was a part of what is making us who we are today. It was not wrong or bad, and maybe it was glorious, but the page turns. Eventually, the page turns. A new chapter begins. And it's really supportive for us to occasionally, maybe today, take a step back and look at our book of life and think, have I been in this chapter too long? Is it still supporting me? Is this still where I want to be? And the answer very well be yes. It might be yes, right? And then what's so empowering about that is you are making the decision to stay exactly where you are. Kind of like when I was caregiver, chemo mom, and there were these moments of inspiration. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I had all these lists, and I was like, I'm going to check all these boxes off. And I was reverting right back to my old self. And then I had to pull back and be like, whoa, girl, and realize that I got to make the decision to stay exactly where I was, which was in the state of chemo mom and caregiver. That's perfect. You're making the decision, an intentional cognitive decision to stay where you are. Empowering. Choosing to stay where you were at is empowering because guess what? You're choosing, not just choosing is like, you got this or that, those are your choices. When you decide is when action occurs. And it might be the exact same actions you were doing yesterday because that was the right decision. That's awesome. That is empowering. Look at your life of where it's at. Is this current chapter still serving you for the greatest good? And when I looked at that, my personal answer was, you know what? God gave me an unbelievable gift, and he has been for a long time. I mean, since I was born, my life is an unbelievable gift. But he has prepped me and trained me and threw me through so many different challenges, whether that was my bankruptcies or losing multiple homes or my concussion and traumatic brain injury and the different other injuries and the different things that we like just that I faced. He has done so many things and led me down this path and this direction of personal growth and healing. And then with my son's diagnosis, allowed me to and supported me to use those tools that I have learned in order to show up to not only this situation, but all of my life and the loved ones around us in the greatest way possible. And I am meant to share that. When they ask me, hey, what do you do? How do I answer that? I am a speaker. I am an author. I am an influencer of positivity and perspective and possibility. And I provide people with a new look on things that can transform their lives in positive ways. And being able to connect with what my true passion, my true light, and my true giving is, and making the decision to do something about it. So that's what today's about. Do you know that you have a decision to make? You have the decision to stay exactly where you are or push ahead to something new and better and more purposeful, whatever that is for your heart. And you are making a decision whether you know it or not. And that, not powerfully making a decision, just like going with the flow of life, that doesn't feel as powerful because not making decision is still making decision, quote unquote. But like I said before, when you powerfully look at your career, do you love it? Is this the chapter you're supposed to be in your career? Maybe you're like, I know that I want to change the pages down the road, but there's a couple other things that are more important for me right now. Perfect. You're making the decision to stay. Or you're like, I haven't been passionate for a while. I do feel like there's an opportunity for me to start exploring other opportunities. And once you start to open yourself, you're going to have a 3 a.m. think fest like me, where you're like, oh my gosh, like some of that darkness that was being scooped up was lack of productivity, lack of giving, lack of sharing. Cal, you have something you need to share. Why isn't your book done? Why isn't your book done? It was done in October. You've been editing since then, but not really editing at all. Get your ass in gear and finish your book. You start speaking again. It's been years since pre diagnosis that you've been on stage. What are you doing? Start doing it again. And being able to have that real conversation with myself, man, after I meditated and motivated myself right back to sleep, when I got out of bed, I was like, yes, like I have made the decision that it is time for me to move forward into my next chapter. Now, I still get to really spend some time evaluating what that chapter looks like, but instead of being in a state of staleness, stagnance, and that sounds bad because it was a very important chapter, but it's time for me to move forward. So look at your career. Look at your marriage or relationship. Look at your friendships. Look at your attitude and the way you show up in general. You have some decisions to make. Decide, are those friendships serving you in a positive way that's loving and giving back to the world? Are those friendships doing that for you? Is your marriage, right? Is that something that you want to start pouring into a little bit more? And this isn't like was saying, this isn't like we're like cutting ties and doing that, but I'm going to decide if this is something that I'm going to commit to and work on, or is it something different? Is it time? Are you sitting in some sort of anger or phase of your life where I don't know, playing the blame game, pointing the finger, choosing anger and fear, is it serving you? Is it serving those around you? Does it feel good? Or is it time for you to make a decision? You have a decision to make. And it is the most powerful thing that we as humans have. We get to make new decisions all of the time. The coolest piece about this, you guys, that's not the coolest piece at all, actually. One of the pieces, maybe cool, I don't know, is that I made a decision to start back up book club in January just a couple months ago. And it was because I found that it was something that was simple enough that I could add it to my schedule while I was still working on this whole chemo hangover. And it was it was great, great decision, take some action. And I've started reading, and not just like kind of reading and listening, but intentionally reading and practicing my personal development, even though it's things I've done in the past. And this month, I always finish the book early, but we did the Traveler's Gift, which is actually about 7 decisions, 7 principles. And now, since I'm done with that book, I'm reading the 7 decisions. And it's just like somewhere it's turned something on in my subconscious that it's like, Cal, it's time for you to make some decisions. The buck stops here. Let's go. And because of that one decision in the beginning of January, here I am ready to shine, which is my word for the year, ready to step in to that person of positive influence that I know in my heart I am meant to be. And it's exciting. That's what happened 3 a.m. wakesies over here at the Carroll household. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I can tell you already today, I have got my podcast up and running, figured out how to connect it everywhere almost all the way. I've recorded 3 or 4 different podcasts. I've started our next book, started mapping out our things, and I already have a plan of action for finishing editing my book and publishing it with some more conditions around like a reward system, a personal reward system. It's going to support me in some more intentional movement towards my purpose. Exciting. Okay, if you have something to share or this has sparked an idea for you of a decision that you do want to step into, always feel free to share, comment wherever you're watching or listening. Reach out if you need support and know that I am just so excited for your next chapter. Whenever it's supposed to be here, whether that's today or next month or in a couple years, and who you are going to step into as you learn from each chapter that you're currently experiencing. Time to make some decisions, you guys. Decide to stay or decide to move. I love you so much. Remember, perspective reveals miracles. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I really appreciate all of your love, shares, support, and excited to really start influencing the world. So let's do this, you guys. We'll chat with you later. Bye.